Jameel Muhammad and Jeff Cardozo dive into the hobby, which is sports cards, trading cards, as well as all other collectibles, right now on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, live from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Hey there, welcome to Meelypod Hobby Podcast, Episode 3. I am Jameel Muhammad, and I am joined by Jeff Cardozo in Omaha, Nebraska. How you doing, Jeff?
Doing awesome. Never thought to be here again, but this is now number 11 overall, so kind of crazy. And it's, I think just even for you're a card geek. I'm a baseball geek, a college baseball geek, and I've always wanted to come here ever since I was a little kid, and now it's almost like a routine summer vacation. As much as I've gotten to be out here, it's really a really great spot.
Well, you look good. How's the atmosphere out there, man? I mean, it's been for the Gators. It's been just a roller coaster of ups and downs, and we had some huge ups yesterday with the defeat over NC State. But just the atmosphere, I think for like people at home, just being at the College World Series, can you put a pulse on it for us? I mean, let the people know what it's like being out there and just around all these baseball fans.
Yeah, I think certainly a bucket list. So many things that I can remember over the years that you get to cherish and be a part of. I think the neat part is when they moved it to TD Ameritrade and now Charles Schwab Field downtown, they stick all the teams in the 8 hotels around the same area. So you've got fans from all of the different fan bases around, and they're doing a great thing. And, they're communicating, you're having fun. And, we've got a team across the street. We've got a team on the next block over. And it's really neat from that standpoint. And, there's not a lot of trash talking because everybody's just enjoying being out here. You see each other in restaurants all the time and all the different things that are going on. And, I think even from a collecting standpoint, Jameel, it's a cool place. You don't know this story, but I was just walking around one day and I just happened to turn the corner and I had to take a double take, but it was Pete Rose. He walked right by me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Pete Rose. And I got him to, I didn't have anything on me but a little ticket stub back then before everything got digital. So I've got him to sign that and, got a picture of him, and it was kind of cool. And then I found out he was doing a signing like the next day in the village that they do for the College World Series. So I think they try to incorporate a lot of different baseball fans and do a lot of special things for everybody to make this a big deal. And gosh, I know just from a viewership standpoint, that first game on ESPN that the Gators played in, there was about 1.5 million viewers. So college baseball has certainly evolved into something special.
And when we're just seeing just this like this change in how players are now coming up through the college ranks, and like 2024 Bowman baseball, Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens, Wyatt Langford, these guys that get their first Bowman cards, usually those wait times are a season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons. And it's like now they're just getting shot up directly into the major league. So seeing the talent out there, we have one hometown guy who had a massive, massive home run yesterday who was likely going to be a top 5 pick in Jack Caglianone. Talk a little bit about that yesterday in that game and getting to watch that home run. And just, I know it was a wild time because he came out and pitched and a little shaky, but then came out of that jam in the first inning. I think he had bases loaded and 1 out or no outs, got out of it, and then comes back in that was the second or third inning and hits that bomb. So what's it been like just getting a chance to see this guy all season and of course the team? I mean, everybody's been playing awesome, but then to see it now on this stage.
No, and I think the neat part about all of that with Jack was Matt Laporta, who had 74 home runs as a Gator, and that was the school record. He was actually in attendance for the 74th home run. So it was really cool moment, and certainly to get to have that call. I never thought that he would get there. He hit 33 homers last year and now gets 34 this year to inevitably tie that record. And it was just a weird day too, because the wind was blowing straight in at about 30 miles an hour. So you're like, There's nobody that's going to hit a home run here today. And then he just basically breaks the teeth of the wind and hits it right through that and got over in a line drive. It just shows you how strong that he really is. And when we were there for batting practice in the first day, again, the wind was blowing in really hard, and NCAA mic'd him up. So he was having some fun and goofing around with guys, but I'm there behind the cages, and he basically said this really tests how strong you really are. And then he hits one over the concourse on the next at bat. So he's the strongest guy that I've ever seen. And yeah, I think when we saw the hotness of those cards that you mentioned, I mean, there's going to be a few studs out there, but this is a pretty bold statement for me to say, but the amount that I've gotten to watch him, and I might tick off some of my friends and some of the people that I've broadcasters or played with over the years, but I think he's the best Gator baseball player of all time.
Mm.
Just what he can do and the strength and the ability and how much he's just grown from even last year to do what he's done this year. He's been intentionally walked more than anybody in the country as well. They just don't want to pitch to the guy, yet the one opportunity he gets, he still hits it out. So I would encourage everybody that's collecting cards, look for Jack Caglione, because I would assume that he's going to be, a guy that's going to stay in Major League Baseball for a really long time and be a staple for forever.
I agree with you. I think it's been amazing to watch, and just the skill set and the clutch factor. I mean, like you just mentioned, the walks and being able to come up and do that with very limited opportunities this season to hit these home runs has been amazing to watch. We could talk probably for the whole podcast about Gator baseball this season and just watching how incredible this run has been with the expectations being so low. But we got our nemesis out there playing pretty well, FSU. We got another SEC team today in Kentucky. Talk a little bit about some of the other games you've watched and the atmosphere, out there with these other. It's pretty much the ACC and the SEC, right? That's
what it is.
So
4-4, and there's 3 SEC teams on the Gators side of the bracket, and so a lot of familiarity with all of them. And of course, Gators played 3 games against Florida State, but there's really good teams out here. There's a guy for Tennessee, Christian Moore. If we're talking about the collecting business, should be a really high pick. And I would expect a guy. It's a second baseman that's hit more than 30 home runs. He's a really good player. Florida State's got a couple of guys. Cam Smith on Florida State, the 3-hole hitter, was the top prospect in the Cape Cod League last year. And normally those guys go on to do really good things at the next level as well. So I think that's the neat part. And, again, going back to the experience of being here, it's really hard to get at autographs and collectibles from, I think, guys when they make it to the big leagues. But here at the College World Series, there's a ton of fans that are always waiting around. They line up some fences by the buses, so they allow the kids to get autographs and great opportunities and take pictures with the guys. And I think while it's still sort of genuine before sometimes maybe it goes to a big leaguer's head or something, everybody's out here just enjoying it. And they're signing autographs, and you can create a lot of special memories. And I know even yesterday I was watching as I was waiting to interview the guys after the game yesterday. A kid asked, and one of the players came over, and then he immediately turned to his dad and just gave him like the biggest hug because he got a kid's autograph. So some really cool stuff from a memorabilia standpoint.
Yeah, that's the best. I mean, when you get a chance to break all those walls down, I think we still haven't. I call it a autograph innocence in college baseball. Still, I mean, I know in the past there's been some crazy things when I think about players like Juan DeFranco, Jason Dominguez, and when they were coming up through different levels of ball in the minor leagues. But college baseball, I think, still has that kind of true ballpark feel. You know what I mean? And like I said, the innocence and the autographs, being there for the kids. Whereas we get a little bit more to the professional level, you have some crazy stories about the graphers, we call them, in the hobby. So it sounds like it's been a lot of fun. How's the weather been, and how's just everything else been?
Yeah, it looks a little sketchy over the next couple of days. I think that's the hard part. There's only been one delay so far. Of course, that was the game the Gators played in, so we didn't finish till about 2:30 in the morning in that first game that the Gators dropped it by a run. But I think today should be okay. But then at night, it's a little suspect again. But they do a good job here. The field drains really, really well, and they're going to keep everybody safe. So as long as the lightning stays away and it's not monsoons, they'll try to get these games in. But could be another long late nights for people watching the College World Series with the storm that's coming.
I mean, that movie Twisters is coming out, and I'm thinking about the Midwest, so don't get blown away, man. I mean, we need you back here. So, yeah, that's exciting. It seems like just a lot of fun. It seems like a great, opportunity, and we want the Gators to win, but just the fact that you've been able to cover this for so many years is so cool. And then the connection to cards, like connection to the hobby with college baseball and the draft and Bowman draft, and I just think about what people got hooked on with cards. It really was these early '90s baseball brands, Bowman being probably the quintessential brand for that. So, really looking forward to seeing how these guys progress and where they go.
Yeah, and the team's overhitting right now, or I would have tried to maybe snag a couple of players. But our guest today is going to be a guy that's associated with the team. But it's what's really cool. You sit there and you go to dinner with people and you talk, and you find out what their hobbies and interests are. And so many people across the United States, heck, even the world, just collect cards. So we're going to have Dr. Kevin Farmer here in just a little bit. He is the UF team docs. He was the physician of the year in 2023 for the Southeastern Conference. So a really cool accolade. So he gets to travel with the teams, and he's got some kids that he helps and does the cob hobby with, and collects a lot of different stuff. So we'll have some fun with that one for everybody. And you always have fun. The one bad thing about not being there is I can't open packs like last week. So we got to get to our wax update. And of course, everybody knows WaxStat is the easiest way to get real-time price comps on wax boxes and sealed products from your mobile phone or your laptop. So save money and time. Get the best deal on wax by visiting waxstat.com. That is WAXSTAT.com. So I know we've got some new releases. What Panini is coming out. Those that was always a cool brand that I got to open way back when.
Yeah, Panini's got two releases this week, one being the 23-24 Contenders basketball. This year it's tricky because Victor Wembanyama's autograph rights. So everyone's chasing Wembanyama cards, but in Contenders, it's usually, I would say, top 3, top 4, top 5 basketball brand, top 5 definitely for sure, basketball brand every year, aside from Prism, National Treasures, Flawless. These kind, it's just always seen as a true autograph rookie. And so what happened earlier in this year in what they call Donruss, they have a card called the Next Day autograph. So this would have been the first Wembanyama big autograph. And Panini actually put on the autograph spot no autograph. So it's kind of been this weird card that's been floating around, and I think they might be doing something similar with this Contenders release. But the crazy thing is that card is still selling for $2,000 and $3,000 from the next day. So I have no idea what his cracked ice cards are going to sell for in Contenders. Contenders basketball just being a huge release. And then Panini also has WWE Immaculate coming out, which is kind of a higher end brand for the WWE franchise. There's been some kind of turmoil with licensing and stuff with WWE and Fanatics and Topps and versus Panini, but we're still getting a few releases, so we'll see how that kind of pans out. Really beautiful cards, thick stock, so that comes out. I think they both come out. I think Contenders is Friday, Immaculate WWE is Wednesday, and then just one to round it out is I know last week was a big release for Topps with Series 2. We had I don't know if you know, they had the Jackson Holiday SSP card, which was the Billy Ripken FF card. They changed it to Fun Face, so there's all these iterations that came out, and Topps kind of, in a way, didn't let people know they had this Easter egg of a card. So in Series 2, it made it really fun. We've hit a couple of them in our breaks at our shop, and people have just been really excited to kind of chase that, not knowing that it was part of the set. So that, I think that kind of has added to it. Fanatics is doing a good job, I think, for that marketing standpoint. Surprises, shaking things up a little bit, where I think collectors in the past have always wanted to know everything that comes out in the set, and so there's been a few surprises. Yeah, those releases. That's what's coming up this week. Not a crazy week. We'll have more releases as we get into the summer. They've released some images for Topps Chrome Baseball and the checklist for that. I know that's going to be a hot release in July, having all of the rookies in it. So looking forward to all the Jacksons and Wyatts and Merrills and stuff like that having their true rookie card in Chrome. So that'll be fun to watch. And I had a wild weekend at the shop, man. We missed you. We had your boy Grant Holloway at the shop and Marquise Stendy who came through and did an autograph signing. These guys are going to be in the trials in just a few days, and hopefully they'll be punching their ticket to Paris. We had over, I think, 300 people, unique people at least, come through the shop on Saturday and Sunday for our 6-year anniversary sale, for our trade day, and for the autograph signing, which for our shop, it's not a huge shop. You've been in there, and to have 300 kind of people throughout the shop on a hot summer day with Gator baseball going on was great. I think we had a good anniversary. A lot of people were happy, gave a lot of stuff away to kids, so that was really good. And then I'm leaving for South Carolina, man. I'm going to South Carolina today to check out our shop up in South Carolina, Meelypops SC. And on Friday, we actually have a really cool event up there. We have trade night combined with an autograph signing with Julian Phillips. So Julian Phillips played at Tennessee. He played through the Upward Star program up there on those same courts. And as you know, he was a draft pick. He plays for the Chicago Bulls now. So it's just it's a cool opportunity to have him in the store. And he has a Prism card, so I'm sure a lot of people will get that signed and get a chance to meet him. But yeah, busy weeks in the summer, Jeff.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's really cool about opening the cards and then sometimes not knowing what's going to be in there. I think everybody expects certain things, but when you have surprises like that's got to be a lot of fun. I'm sure that, people would buy into that. And, I think probably attract more people to wanting to go chase those types of cards. So that's kind of cool that these companies are doing things like that. And, the signings are certainly always cool. Yeah, Julian Phillips is a really big name. And to have those track guys there at the shop last week, I saw a bunch of the social media pictures and all the great things that are happening. And I think, it's like that innocence again. I think like we're seeing out here at the College World Series when, probably a little kid stands next to Grant Holloway and he's like, you look how big this guy really is. You're in awe of people like that. So it's really cool that you can get the kids involved. And, anytime you can bring these professional athletes in and some of the best athletes in the entire world just to interact with fans, it's certainly, I think, one of the best parts about what this is all about.
Absolutely. Yeah, just it's been a whirlwind starting this shop and shops now and get a chance to do a podcast now. So we get a chance to interact with guests, and we're going to have an amazing guy on next. Looking forward to talking with Dr. Kevin Farmer and prying his brains, his medical brain into the collecting world. So I think we'll catch up with Dr. Farmer and you in just a few minutes as you go grab him.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right. See you guys in a second.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
We welcome you back to the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Jeff Cardozo joined by Dr. Kevin Farmer, the sports physician for the Gators. He is the one that is here in Omaha, hanging out with all the guys, making sure everything is smooth and good. And this is almost like a summer vacation for us now, Doc. It's been so many times under Sully, 9 times in the last 14 years. I mean, you were a college baseball player yourself at Duke, but just to get to this point, I don't think there's a lot of people that think that it was this easy. Like, it shouldn't be this easy. And what he's done with this program is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been a great experience, and you and I spent a lot of time out here, and we're very fortunate. I mean, as you mentioned, you look at a team like, Florida State has been here a bunch, but never won it. I mean, Getting here is hard, winning it's hard, all those things. Everything's hard, to get to this point. So I'm very fortunate, and certainly it's a blessing to be involved with the program.
Well, and it's got to be hard to do your job just in general. I mean, be this great orthopedic doc and, traveling around with the teams, doing all these different things. I mean, there's so much involved with that. But what makes it special? I know that, you really care about these athletes and, you're around them all the time. I know it takes a lot of family time away, but, I guess getting to still be in the sports world is kind of cool.
Yeah, as a former athlete, I wanted to remain involved in athletics. And so finding this avenue, I was a Gator fan growing up. And so I grew up in Daytona Beach and, grew up during the 90s, the heyday of Spurrier and Gator football. So became a huge Gator fan, and so to have this opportunity for me has been a blessing. I think, I always take this, I've learned my lesson that I take this third week off in June because we've been so successful as far as my practice.
Yeah.
Because it's just not fair to patients for me to have to cancel cases at the last minute, but it's a blessing to have that opportunity. And then obviously, as you know, they're very welcoming as the UAA with families, and so my family enjoys it. We've had a lot of good memories here, and I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity so many times.
Well, and then I think the unique part about what we get to see with Dr. Farmer, so he's treating, let's just say, Jack Caglione, and not saying Jack's got an injury or anything like that, but you're going to treat Jack Caglione, and then you're going to get back home and you're going to treat Joe Schmo, just the normal person with everyday stuff. So I think Gainesville has a lot of really cool things happening because you're working with the best of the best, but you're also treating that little leaguer that's got issues at 10, 12 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I think North Central Florida is very fortunate to have such a great medical center, in town and accessible. Obviously, we have the Olympic affiliation now, and that really has taken off. I've operated on 3 or 4 Olympians, that may still make it back for Summer Olympics, and so we're having that affiliation. Obviously, UF athletics, so all across the board, University of Florida, is taking care of high level athletes. And then we learn from those experiences and apply it to, like you said, to the younger kids, the high school kids, and that way they benefit from us dealing with these high pressure situations, and we can learn what we've kind of found with them, and apply that to that population as well.
So let's bring in Jameel now, because Jameel, he was just talking about Olympians, and you just had a couple Olympians in the shop this past weekend. You had Grant Holloway and Marquise Dendy in there. They did a big signing. A whole bunch of the people showed up, and that's always cool, Jameel, to get those guys in there. And did Grant bring all the medals and spread them out and show them off?
Yeah, so Grant and Marquise both had their medals there, and I mean, we talk about Gator excellence. Those guys are like top-notch professionals, and the way they carry the track and field, just the team, the camaraderie, the fandom. I mean, there were so many people there that just lit up, and how they interact with the fans is just really special. We did some side videos with them, and you'll find out in these videos when we put the content out that Grant is actually a massive Funko Pop collector, and Marquise is a massive Lorcana TCG collector. So we'll get into all that as well, which is wild. But thinking about all of this, I know, Dr. Farmer, you when we talk about excellence, 2023 SEC Physician of the Year. I mean, props on that. But you also like to pull some excellence in the shop. I know you brought your son in the shop. You've ripped some packs. You've gotten to Bowman. Can you just share a little bit about what it's like to be on the field, be around these athletes, but then again ripping packs and then seeing some of these guys that you've worked on or have had relationship to?
Yeah, that's really, so we love coming into your shop. We always have a great time. We've been to the big meetups and trading events you've had there, so we've really enjoyed it. We first got back into it. My son, when he's probably 8, 9, 10 years old, doing the Pokemon, and then that evolved probably with Anthony Richardson coming out. Anthony, I've known since high school. Obviously an Eastside kid, and came back from some injuries and has had success, and so when he was coming out, my son and I really got involved in chasing his rookie cards, and we have probably 30 or 40 different Anthony rookie cards at this point, and that really kind of sucked me back into it. As a kid, I was really into it, and him as well, and so we started chasing Wyatt cards and all these things, and doing the openings and buying into the rips and all these different things, and so it's really been a fun time for he and I, and a chance to bond over the hobby and really get back into it.
Yeah, I mean, kids and the hobby, I mean, it's synonymous with, I think, what you're seeing out there at the College World Series, getting autographs, hawking foul balls, all the things that, kids love to do with it. And I think cards have created that nostalgic element to really push forward the collecting later on in their life. And so for you, I know you were a big, let's call it, well, I don't like the term so much, but the junk wax era, when we had mass production of cards in the mid 80s to let's just call it 93, 94, when it came to baseball and football. Basketball, you're starting to see a little bit more of that trend up now, especially the Jordans and the Shaqs and the rare inserts. But there's a story I've heard, there's a rumor about 89 Griffies and Chick-fil-A. So I got to hear this story from you.
Yeah, no, it's a cool story. So 89, I would have been probably 12 years old, and I grew up in New Smyrna Beach, so I was still living there. I moved to Daytona in high school, but New Smyrna is where I was at the time. And Truett Cathy, the guy who started Chick-fil-A, he would vacation in New Smyrna. He had a beach home there, and so I ran into him. He was mutual friends with a friend that owned the orange juice kind of packaging area or store. And so I ran into him. This is probably October-ish of 89. And I didn't, at the time, Chick-fil-A was just mainly in the malls. It wasn't as big as it is now. And so, of course, I liked it, but nothing like what it is today, where it's just everywhere and number one, fast food and all those things. But I remember talking to him, and he was, getting into Christmas time. He said, "Oh, what are your plans for Christmas? What are you looking for?" And I mentioned, just kind of, 12-year-old kid, I've been chasing these cards, these new upper decks. They got these holograms, and they're unbelievable. There's this card, Ken Griffey Jr., and you can't find the packs anywhere. And I was just kind of talking off the cuff and never thought much about it. And then 4 weeks later, I get a package at my door, and it was several sealed boxes of packs of 89 Upper Deck from Truett Cathy, the guy that started Chick-fil-A. And I probably have at least 4 Griffies from those boxes to this day. I still have them, from that gift. And so it just kind of tells you the kind of person he is to be that successful, but to think about a little kid that he just kind of met for a few minutes there. So it was a cool experience.
Yeah, and I've told Jameel that's still probably my favorite card ever getting. I've only got one that I opened up, and then I bought a couple more just to have it. But is there like a favorite card out of everything that you've ever gotten that maybe just means something to you?
Well, the Griffies, obviously, I remember trading a couple of those for Jerome Walton. That was Rookie of the Year that year. Everyone thought was going to be the biggest thing. So I remember trading a couple of Griffies for Jerome Waltons. I'm still kicking myself to this day. Jeff knows this. I was a big Braves fan growing up, and like everyone in our age group, Dale Murphy was kind of our idol, and so chasing Dale Murphy cards. As a kid, I couldn't afford kind of his, more expensive cards. So I've gotten back into it. I've gone back now, and I've gotten some Murphy rookies, and then the reverse negative. I believe that's 89 also. I believe, right? The 89 reverse negative Dale Murphy. So that one, as a kid, I wanted, kept chasing forever. I never got. Now, so I just went out and bought it now, and so now I have the reverse negative. So that's probably that. I got the Billy Ripken, the F face one. I got the original one. So things like that. I got kind of sabotaged by the steroid era because I have all the Barry Bonds tops traded and the Mark McGwire Team USA card, and ones that I think should be worth a lot, but I think got obviously hit pretty hard with the steroid scandal. So those are just. But again, it's more the memories, just thinking back to trying to chase it as a kid that I think is probably the thing that sticks to me the most.
I need to hire you on the side. I mean, it's your knowledge base from the 90s, and you can also talk to all the aspiring people who have their $1 million collections from the 80s and 90s. I might let you break it to them because I've done a lot of that.
Sure.
Great. But I think what you're sharing about and just thinking about the hobby in general is the roots of it, right? I mean, you loved cards. You made trades, you're kicking yourself for it, but you still come back to it. The fact that you can tangibly hold these heroes that you had as a kid, and now you're in this position where you can go back and buy those things that we were untouchable back in the day. The Dale Murphy PSA 10 reverse negative card has gone up quite a bit. I think it's like a $700-800 card or something now. And this is a card most people didn't even know much about in the eras that were going on back then. And then the Griffey card is just the iconic card. It's going to be a card that I think it's synonymous to me as some like the 52 Mantle and the 1986 Jordan and the 89 Griffey rookie card. It's just everybody knows that card, the image, what it means. So. We've been through a lot with baseball, but you've gotten seen a lot with it. So I'm just thinking about what you said with the Braves. I wanted to ask you a question from the medical side, if that's cool. So
Sure.
I've been still my license is an OT, and so when it comes to medical talk, I enjoy it, especially thinking about sports. So Jeff's boy and your boy Ronald J. Acuna had another popped ACL this year, and I always wonder because Acuna he's so deep in the hobby, right? People have a lot vested into him, collectors and investors. So when you see that happen a second time, especially with someone who's a gamer like Acuna, what are your thoughts as a doctor? And don't worry about the investment side of cards and things like that, but what do you just think about him as a player? And I know everyone's different, but what are your thoughts that go through your mind?
Yeah, my first thought was he's somebody that relies so much on speed that obviously he had the other ACL a couple of years ago and came back and did well, 70 stolen bases, so it didn't affect him tremendously. But all it takes the difference between being elite and being very good is fractions of a second, right? Millisecond differences in running, and so having another ACL on the other side, I worry a little bit that if he just loses just the slightest step, that he's not quite as elite as he was previously. But again, he came back after the last one and did well. I mean, ACLs are common. We have a lot of athletes come back, but when you get on both knees, that becomes a little bit more concerning. And so, obviously, as a Braves fan, I hope not. And obviously, for collectors out there, they hope not also. But that would be my worry about long term. He was having some issues with the other knee, I think, off and on. the last year or two, he'd missed some time, and he had to get some MRIs, I think, on the other knee after the ACL. So that's kind of what you see, is that you see these little things pop up after these injuries, and you start to get a little bit of, wear and tear and some swelling and things like that. And again, that's all it takes to make a difference. But you mentioned Mickey Mantle. He famously, I believe, played his last half of his career without an ACL.
Yeah.
So, so there people can compensate and do well. And he's obviously a genetic marvel, and so maybe he'll do just as well. And hopefully that's the case.
And Jameel, another cool thing that Dr. Farmer does, he's had the opportunity over the years to get to the NFL Combine, and you look at and you talk about some of those things, and you talk about a millisecond and for speed and all these other things. So what are you doing out there and trying to help teams with as you look at some of these athletes get ready to play big time football?
Yeah, so I help the Dolphins out. They bring me out there to help with the evaluations, and basically what every team does is they give an athlete a grade, a medical grade. In addition to all their running numbers and all that, they get a medical grade. It could be, teams do it differently, but it basically A through F, where an A is pristine, no issues, no concerns, no long-term problems. Oh, freeze. Still here, Jameel?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, you're having a little bit of connection issues. You're good. I think you're good now. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, so every athlete will get a medical grade. Now, if their skill set is so strong, then that will override the medical grade. I've seen athletes get D's or something, even lower grades on medical, and still get drafted in the top 10 because their skill is so good. And so at some point, the talent exceeds the concern. But you give them a grade, and then the GM and the scouts use that when they make their decisions on who they want to go. So I help the Dolphins out. There's 300 some athletes come through, and they get MRIs and X-rays and all these different things, and you get their whole history, and you basically talk through what they have, and then they give everyone a grade, and then they sit down in their war room before the draft and go over everybody, and it's just part of the decision-making process. If you're going to put X number of $1 million into a kid, what's his long-term projection? What's his longevity? Is he worth that investment? And that's where the medical aspect of it comes into play.
So Jameel, if he's signing off on the Dolphins, and get me some Tuas and some A-Chains and guys like that.
There's some freaks down there, man. A-Chain and Tyreek and Waddle. There's some speedsters down there. So it's wild just thinking about how those numbers have really changed how organizations pick players. You look at a guy from, was it Texas, and I think he broke the 40. Was it Xavier? Howard or Phillips, I'm losing name, but for him to get drafted so high when he didn't really have the best career, but you look at someone like that as a speedster, and we're seeing these kinds of things now where there's such focus on these numbers. AR is a great example. I mean, what he did, launched his draft stock, and I think with him, I think you're seeing just some things that the NFL is merged into and changed into, and how that affects the card market is wild. Anthony Richardson stuff right now, along C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love. Those are and Mahomes. Those are like the top 4 guys people want in cards right now. And as we enter into this preseason, right before football starts, the card market booms in football. So it's interesting hearing all that. And I'm sure a lot of collectors would love to know your notes as they buy and sell trade cards. But we go from baseball, the Braves, football now to the Dolphins. Let's throw another curve and go to basketball here for a second. So last night, Big Al Horford wins his first NBA championship. And I think about someone like him, 07-08, his rookie class, with Noah and Brewer, and of course Durant was the headliner that year. And 17-ish plus years later, for him to play at that level, defend at that level. I mean, I saw him defending Luka and Kyrie, all sorts of things in the series. What do you have to say to some of these players that have kept those careers for that long, and from a medical side, how is that possible for these guys? Because the NBA in general is just so tough. How hard that is on the body, week in, day out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Big Al and kind of what you've seen, and maybe what how he took care of himself so well.
Yeah, I mean, he's just genuinely one of the nicest guys that you can be around. Yeah, he was before my time here at UF, but he would come back around. I was dealing a lot with the basketball in Billy's last couple of years with the Final Four run with that 14, and so I was around a lot with basketball then, and he would come around. I remember he had a pec repair at one point, and he was rehabbing from. So that's the only injury top of my head that I can think of. A lot of it's luck. I think just having good luck, but also preparation. I think those who really put the effort in the off season and prepare themselves and train and do the right things, and I think are more likely to avoid injuries. And obviously, having some genetic aspect to it is very helpful. But yeah, basketball, you get a knee injury in basketball. I think that's probably the worst sport to have those kind of injuries. They're long, they're heavier than other athletes because their size, and just that hardwood floor. There's just not much give to it, and so you hear a lot of these big athletes that that have a little injury, like Greg Oden or someone like this, that their careers just never are the same because of that nature of that sport. And so to see someone like him, a big who's that agile, that has avoided those problems, really is a testament, I think, to his work ethic, and certainly I think he should be a Hall of Famer. He didn't get the recognition of a Durant or somebody, but I think career wise, he's been very, very successful, and I hopefully that amounts to, now that he's got a championship, that kind of is the final piece to get him in the Hall of Fame.
So if we bring that back to then the hobby, the card collecting industry, of course, Wembanyama is this big guy, but you mentioned Greg Oden. That was probably a really hot card, Jameel, when he came out, was what he was supposed to be, and now they're probably not worth anything. So as you look at all these big guys, there's probably not a way to tell, though, but it's got to be so much wear and tear and big limbs. And how hard is it to have a long career when you're 7 feet, 7'2", things like that?
Yeah, it's very difficult. The basketball guys, the centers that I've seen that have had injuries, those are the hardest ones to deal with because of the nature of what they do in their sport. The list is long. The Greg Odens, and then you can think of Festive Ezeli we talked about. Yeah. He had a big cartilage transplant that never returned, and he got Lonzo Ball had a cartilage transplant here that he hasn't returned yet. I see videos of him back kind of moving forward, but those are just very difficult injuries to come back from, and especially in that sport. I think football, baseball, you get a little more tolerance to it because of, I think, field differences and differences in the sport itself. But basketball, in my experience, if you're looking at guys coming out, you're looking at investing in cards and all those things. If you see a guy in college that's had some injury issues, some knee issues, that I'd probably be a little worried about their longevity and their success rate because of it.
Well, that's a great point. And, I'm a little scared even now, like looking at Luka in the NBA finals. I got a Luka rookie from Jameel, but how great he was, but yeah, he's hobbling around, and it's like, oh no, are those cards going to all of a sudden like plummet?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think, and you guys know this a lot better than I do, but trying to figure out when the point to sell and then get out, and that's always the hardest thing. But Luka, Porzingis obviously had an ACL, and he never quite was the same as he was before that. He's come back, but you can see what happens. They start to just kind of gradually break down over time. And so I do think using, for the hobby, I do think injury history can be very helpful as far as making decisions on when to buy and when to sell and who to chase.
Yeah, it's you never know, right? And there's times of people who are invested in Andrew Luck, have tens of thousands of dollars, and then he just comes out and retires. So you just never know. I was also thinking about I won't call it botch surgeries, but I think surgeries that have really impacted somebody in a negative way, or maybe they didn't take, or things was somebody from that era that we collected in was Bo Jackson, right? What happened with him, and we look at the medical advancements and where we are now. Maybe we never would have done those things, but it's tough, and I think that's where there's such a volatility in the market. Luka, a great example. Most people baked in a price into buying his autographs and his rookie cards the last 2 months because they thought he's going to win championship, and now he hasn't. So then what happens? And then last thing I just want to say was, I was thinking what you said about Horford. I've heard it said that Jason Tatum, really took to Al Horford, really followed his lead and his example. And you think, there's a guy who hasn't had a lot of injury history, and how cool it is for Big Al to have laid this kind of precedence and laid this foundation to teach people to, take care of your bodies, do the right things. And now you're seeing the fruits of that. So Big Al is Gator excellence to the nth degree, and it's exciting to see him win his first championship for sure, man.
Yeah. Speaking of Bo, I did just also get the 90 score of Bo Jackson black and white football pads. That was another card that I liked as a kid that I wanted. I just got that one recently.
That is cool.
That's like just iconic card right there. Iconic card,
Yeah.
and you got to bring you your son and you in the shop soon, because we when you get back from Omaha, you mentioned the Billy Ripken card. So in Top Series 2, which came out just last week for 2024, they took Jackson Holiday, Oriole obviously, and they redid the card. So they have super short prints of that card, and it's no longer the FF, it's Fun Face, and they have a white scribbled out, a black scribbled out. They have all these different chases to it, with his bat, of course, over his shoulder, just like the Billy Ripken card. So it's fun. We're seeing some throwbacks, right, to the nostalgic cards that we created into 2024. So have to get you some Series 2 for you and your son to rip.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great.
Great stuff, and continue all the great work. I know you were there for when Micah got hurt earlier this year, Gator basketball. But as we wrap that up, just talk about the camaraderie. I know you even got to meet up with some of the other physicians that are out here from each team. It's like a fraternity, and it's probably really cool to see some of these guys, hang out with them. But knowing that if anything happens wherever you're traveling city-wise, there's people there that are going to help you.
Yeah. I mean, it is a small fraternity. Out of the 8 teams here, I know 7 of the team orthopedic surgeons very well, and so 5 of them are in town. So we got together and just met up, and hopefully we continue to do that. We used to have a meeting in conjunction with us at the Hilton. We would do a sports medicine meeting. We try to get together and do an educational component. That kind of fizzled out, but yeah, it is a small world. When Micah had his issue in Nashville, I was able to call the Vanderbilt team doctor right away, and by the time we were get on the plane, he'd already had his surgery. So having those connections, I do think is very beneficial to our athletes. Having that's the main reason why I go to the combine. I don't get paid for that. I actually probably lose money because I'm not working. But the main reason why I go to do that is because when I sit down with the UF athletes, I can tell them what they're looking for. I can say, look, this is what the teams are concerned about. This is what they want. And so when I sit down with a UF football player, I at least have the knowledge that I've been there, and I can help them kind of guide them in their decision-making process, because obviously their goal is to get to the next level. And so having that experience, I think, is beneficial for our team.
So good that we get to see Dr. Farmer here. It won't be good if we see Dr. Farmer out on the field, because then that means something went bad. But really special stuff. Appreciate you stopping by, being a part of this thing. I know the collecting world's really cool. Each year, we can get autographs from the teams, and the kids really love that and being a part of that. And you can look back and have the Pete Alonso and Harrison Bader autographs from those teams that they were on, from Kevin O'Sullivan back in the day. So a lot of neat things that tie into what we get to do out here.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, for me, a lot of these kids become kind of like part of my family. I get emotionally invested into them. So being able to now invest and buy their car, like the Anthonys and the Wyatts, and then the ones that I've built relationships with now, it just adds to my emotional attachment. So it's really cool for me and my son to be involved with that.
Yeah, no doubt. So there you go, Jameel. See him in the shop. Make sure you get him some more AR stuff. He had a signing with Anthony Richardson back in the shop. So he's got some really cool things.
Yeah.
That picture where he's jumping over the dude and all that stuff. So yeah, really cool ones.
Well, both Dindy and
Holloway.
Grant. Yeah, Grant. I took care of both of them when they were here. Grant still texts me this day to to get a little checkup here and there. And so they're both great ambassadors for UF. And I mean, I would argue Grant's one of the greatest athletes to come out of UF.
Sure.
And so it's just great to have those guys still around.
Olympics is right around the corner, man. So I know the Gator Nation is excited. Thank you, Dr. Farmer, for what you do behind the scenes. I know from the medical side, people don't realize it sometimes, but what you've done for the university and for the team, and also what you do for the hobby by growing the hobby. So thank you for all that, man, and being a guest with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll step aside. We'll come back for another segment, talk about JSA and the importance of that. And we'll have Jimmy Spence as our special guest next week. That was Dr. Kevin Farmer. Let's go see him back in Gainesville for all of you little leaguers or any kind of pain or injuries or just trying to get through some arm trouble. Right there in little old Gainesville, and he's willing to help. All right, thanks, Doc.
Thank you very much.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypop shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, Meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
All right, that was great stuff with Dr. Kevin Farmer. Really cool to get a perspective from not only a medical world, but that diving into the card industry as well. I think it's what we're going to try to offer all of you throughout all of this. When you've got professional athletes collecting cards and hearing the stories of how they got into it, it's always great to get some of the stuff. And if you want to encourage your friends to check us out, you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter Live, listen to the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, 39 different platforms where you can find all your favorite stuff. So that is always really, really good. And next week, this might be one of my favorites because I'm still learning about what JSA is all about and grading cards and the importance of all that. And, we're going to try to make sure all of you understand what that really means and how that can increase value on your cards just by investing a little bit. But we'll have Jimmy Spence from JSA and talking about authentications and what fakes are all about. And Jameel, I think that's the biggest thing for me, because when I initially got into all this, when I was fresh, this high school kid, and I'm working at Publix bagging groceries for the first time, there was a card shop, and I would go in and, he'd have autographs all over the wall. And, I'd spend $50, $60. And I remember buying an Emmitt Smith autograph. And, still to this day, I don't know if it's real or not, but there was a little certificate of authenticity on the back that said, hey, this is certified to be real by so-and-so sports shop. But I think you can fake those now. So having somebody like Jimmy to authenticate a lot of stuff is really important.
Absolutely. I think we have entered a season of the hobby, chronologically, where we have to have a third party, a TPA, a third party authentication, just another voice and opinion, because it is so vitally important. So much stuff is faked. And as you mentioned, our podcast, our whole hope in this is to educate, and to have guests on that are different, or have guests on that are going to provide a point of view that you might not know, or maybe you've been in the hobby forever and never really known how, let's say, third-party authentication works, or the science behind it, or how they look up and how they verify things. We're going to talk about the word exemplar. That's a word that's going to come up in your vernacular for you hobby folks out there next week with Jimmy. And so we're looking forward to that next week. Make sure you tune in. He will talk a lot about just what goes into how they verify and how they look at things. I've learned it on the surface level, and I've kind of gotten deep with him and talked before, but I think it's an element of the hobby where no one really addresses autograph authentication and how prevalent it is for there to be a lot of fakes. We have people that come into the shop all the time. Would they purchase this on a cruise ship? They purchase this in an auction. They purchase this from a buddy who met Babe Ruth, and all these kinds of things. And it's like, the stories that people believe, I always tell them, is like, it's not worth anything. The story doesn't give any credence to this, simply because you have to be able to substantiate that this is real, and that comes from these third-party authenticators. So we'll have Jimmy from JSA on next week. I've known him for a while. He's just good people, and we're going to continue to have some really unique guests. I don't want to let the cat out the bag yet, but there are going to be a lot of guests in the summer that I think you're really going to want to tune into, and so as we get this podcast moving and grooving, we're on episode 3 today. We will have people from the industry. We will have card shop owners, but we will also have athletes and celebrities and true collectors and things like that to kind of provide for you what I think is the card shop, right? The card shop experience is all of that. So yeah, we have that, and also Jeff, I know you've been eyeing these Steve Spurrier autograph Heisman sets from '91. We call it the Grillin' picture with Coach Spurrier. He signed a few of these for us a couple weeks ago from episode 1, and anybody who's watching, you can win these. Very simple. All you got to do is go to those original episodes on Facebook and on YouTube. We're going to do a random.org randomization on each one of those platforms. So there's 2 prizes to be given away. And all you got to do is comment on the episode 1 podcast what you think about the podcast, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, why my nose is too big, why Jeff's always got a fresh cut, whatever you want to say, we're happy to oblige and check out those comments. Another thing too, Jeff, you've mentioned in the past is getting comments, put in there questions that you guys have, things that you want to see through the podcast. We're listening, and we want to attribute some of that as we move on into these later episodes.
Yeah, and I think next week is great because, again, I don't know if we're not discouraging people for going out and trying to get autographs, but, it's so hard to tell whether or not something's real or something's fake, and there's forgers and different things that are going on. I think, us that get them in person, you always have that great story and you can have that, but, certainly stories get lost over the years. I remember watching, it was the pawn shop, the Pawn Stars, back in the day, that dude that's out in Vegas on television, and this guy brought in this thing. You mentioned Babe Ruth, and it was hey, my brother's sister's daughter's best friend was his next door neighbor, and I got this thing, and this is what it was, and for about 50 years they thought that they had something special, when in reality it was just a forgery or a fake. So those are kind of sad, certainly, and it's really cool to be able to at least authenticate that stuff, because there are some true really good ones and some special things that are out there that could be memorable for a really long time for people.
Yeah, and again, there's always the memory of getting an autograph, and I always tell people, like, that's the memory, right? So It has value, but it has to be substantiated. So the story behind it doesn't help substantiate. We need the third-party authentication, and I would say 90-95% of the time, when you're getting something truly signed by somebody, it's going to pass that third-party authentication because it's obviously their autograph. It's when we get into the stories and the hand-me-downs and all those other things that I really worry. So we'll talk about all those intricacies next week. I'll get into that with Jimmy, and Jeff and I will ask some hard questions too, and we'll try and do something interactive with him as well on the live. But we're looking forward to that. So make sure you tune into episode 4. And Dr. Farmer today was great. Episode 3, make sure you go back and watch that. Hearing a medical guy's perspective is just a cool thing for me, just being known, as I've worked in the medical field. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to do this. Episode 3, man. We've already made it to 3. They didn't cancel us yet, Jeff.
Yeah, and we're getting closer and closer to your big event, the Madness Live Mega Sale. That's at the end of June, and of course you've got the national convention in Ohio that we've talked about a few times in late July. So keep that on your radar, everybody. But that's man, when you say Meelypops Madness Live Mega Sale, it just sounds so just ginormous.
Yeah, that's something maybe we can do some content on in the future. I know we got a few minutes here, but we started it during COVID, and that was way back when you and Pat were having to use our shop because we had crazy rules in Gainesville, and they were kicking you out of your own studio. So we decided to make live sales a thing on Instagram, and it really propelled. We went from maybe 20, 30 viewers in the live to at the peak, I would say it was like 400 to 500, and then we would have, I would call it the true check marks coming in, these verified people like Evan Longoria to be in the sale or Gary V or whatever, and then you'd have more people flying in it, and we were selling these cards like at a blazing speed. So it was just something that we coined called Meelypops Madness, and then we have our next sale. It's session 84. We haven't done one for a while because we've had just a crazy last couple months, but I'm really looking forward to it, and it's also for a lot of people trying to buy, and you mentioned flipping in episode 2. They'll look to get some items maybe at a deal to then take to the national and flip and make some money on. So it'll be a fun experience. If you've never seen it, I encourage you to tune in with our Instagram live on June I think it's the 29th or the 30th. It's the last Saturday of June at 9 p.m. and we go live selling cards from the shop, and it's a lot of fun. So that's a mega sale for sure.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, it's a mega time out here in Omaha. Really enjoying it. Get South Carolina safely and get up there and enjoy the autograph signing with Julian Phillips again, and just do your thing. Kids, get out there and support it, and get to meet some of these NBA superstars is a really legit thing. Again, watch and listen to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Live, all the podcasts, more than 39 different platforms. You can find us, and we will continue to try to explain the biz and give you all the ins and outs of what it's all about. And Jameel will always steer you the right way. All right, for Jameel, I am Jeff. That is another episode of the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Thursday at noon.